Hello, my friends, and welcome to a space where pleasure is treasured, relaxation is not what you think it is, and life firing on all cylinders is what we're about. If you are somebody who wakes up every day asking for way more, consider this your happy place. Welcome to the Creation of Living podcast. I'm your host, Heather Nichols. Let's dive in. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Creation of Living podcast. I am your host, Heather Nichols, and here this week with the amazing, lovely Nikolett Erdélyi. Nikolett is an access consciousness facilitator and just beautiful, powerful businesswoman who lives in Hungary. She's also lived in the United States, I know. Lifetimes ago, and has written books and just created a lot of really amazing things. And I invited her to come today onto this podcast and talk with me about stepping up. And actually, we were chatting before we went live about just how, creating a really thriving, successful, powerful business, it's not what it necessarily looks like to other people. Like there's so much vulnerability involved and getting honest with ourselves. And so we were just, hoping to have a conversation that might contribute something to you that would help you to get more clear and aware of what's actually true for you. Because what I know, and I'm sure you can speak to this as well, Nicolett, is that when we really have a clarity of what's true for us, creation flows with so much elegance. And when we're lying to ourselves or trying to create something, that isn't true, it's a lot more difficult.
You said so many things I could just connect to, like so many things. We really have to go through all those things because I guess it's when you share your own journey and you are willing to be vulnerable with your story, it helps to other people because I guess the stories are not the same, but the struggles could be. And for me, it's like really inspiring to listen to someone who went to basically the same thing or really similar. And then, oh, okay, I am not wrong or I'm not anything. It's just is what it is. And yeah. And can I say something? I'm so grateful. Thank you so much for having me. I really want to share with your listeners that you are the first person who actually, so when I moved back from the United States ages ago, I just got divorced and I was really lost and I didn't know what to do with my life. I had no money. I just broke up with my ex-husband and I had to move back. It's really different living in San Francisco than in Hungary. And I felt like I was the biggest failure. And I knew I just really need to change this. And back then, there wasn't a lot of access consciousness facilitator, like especially who I actually knew in some ways. And I saw you many times online, different podcasts, Facebook Lives, Joy of Business classes, which is an access consciousness specialty class. And you're so interesting to me. I didn't know back then why, but just really interesting. And I remember one morning I woke up and I'm like, I just need a really good mentor. I need someone who done what I want to do, have done what I want to do. And I was like, it's Heather, but I guess she's really expensive. I don't have the money. I'm like, well, maybe I should just ask her. Maybe she could just be my mentor in some ways. And I remember next morning I woke up and I got a message from you, or maybe a friend request. Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness, how she knows I'm alive or I'm on this planet. And I texted you, I'm like, I can't believe you just sent me this friend request. And you said, I don't even know why have I done something like that. And I was like, oh my God, it's just meant to be. And so I had one phone call with you. You were really busy, and I was just listening. I asked you a couple of questions, and I was just listening. It was just 20 minutes or 30 minutes, I can't remember, and it changed my life. And I never called you ever since. Not because I could have, but that was so helpful, and you gave me the energy of what I wanted to create. And I was like, thank you so much. I'm taking this, and I will go and I will create, and I make you proud. And I remember years after when we met in some classes, and it was just an amazing to, meet you in person. And I'm so grateful. I really wanted to share this story because you never know when you say yes to something and you don't know even why, then you can change someone's life. It's just, and also when you are just choosing for yourself or choosing what works for you or just being an example for other people, being brave and being willing to, I don't know, jump while no one is willing to, you never know. And I'm so grateful. Thank you, Heather.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I love that story. It's funny because I never even check my friend requests on Facebook. I never send people friend requests. Like I just don't look at that, because I have like almost a maximum number or whatever. And it was so funny because I remember just seeing this, Facebook like suggests people. This was so long ago, but I remember seeing you and being like, "Who's that?" And I just went, "Oh, I'm gonna request her as a friend." And then you asked me like, "Would you be my mentor?" And I was like, "Yeah." Like I normally wouldn't say yes to that. I normally be like, "Well, you can take a class or have a session or whatever." But it was just so. It was so it just like the energy was there, and I want to just say that because we never know what our asks are creating in the world, and I'm always fascinated by the movement of the universe, and just how like energies kind of are always like being rearranged, so that we can have what we're asking for if we're willing to receive it, and somehow you asking, like at Facebook, the universe was like, "Here, Heather," and it just like facilitated this whole beautiful thing, and I remember that conversation. I mean, I actually remember like walking around my house talking to you and being like, wow, like this person is really taking this in. And like, I could tell that you were going to run with it, and you, and then I remember, I don't know, a while later, a year or so, or whenever, seeing photos of you, in front of a room full of people giving a presentation and being like, yeah, because I didn't hear from you. I know you took some of my classes, but we didn't have like a direct conversation. And it was just like, that's the power of, really like, it's the power of choice. Yep. And, as far as like this conversation of stepping up, you were in a moment of like, and I know had so many moments of time to step up, ever since then, and before then as well. I mean, leaving San Francisco and your marriage, that's a major stepping up moment. We've both gone through a divorce, so it's a big choice. And it's always amazing how like I've really been so fascinated by how much the like fear or the hesitation or whatever, it's like it's always so much more intense before you just make the choice and take the leap, and then once you take the leap, you're like, oh, all these new possibilities start showing up. But man, taking that leap sometimes can be huge.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's been 6 years when I talked to you. I think it was in 2019. Yeah. January, actually, I remember. I remember also when I was walking downtown Budapest, I'm like, I really need a good mentor, but it shouldn't be Hungarian because Hungarian has so small universes. Like I need someone who really like has a big universe. And I walk home, I am like, oh, it's Heather. I look at your website. I'm like, I'm one day I will take a class with her. And then next morning it happened. And I just remember everything. It was so long ago, but it seems like it was yesterday. And it's been so many choices. What I learned over the years is you can create anything. And I would like to go back what you said at the beginning also. When you are really aligning with that future that you're desiring to create, like it's really yours, it's really what you want to create, then everything just falling into your lap. And honestly, my life in the past 6 years, it wasn't easy, but I had a lot of ease because I was just really going to one direction. I mean, it changed over time, but it was just like I knew where I want to go. And then I would say like a year ago or a year and a half ago, when I started to realize that my life is not really going like I get everything, but it's like really hard. I have to struggle. and and I was so happy because we had a small conversation before we started, and I shared with you, I'm like, hey, I'm like in a really interesting place right now because I have everything I wanted, but I just realized this is not what I actually want right now. Maybe it's been a dream a couple of years ago, but for now, and I really have to ask myself a question like, what do I desire to create? If I would lose anything and everything and everyone and everything I had, what would I choose? What would I create? If I could start today, what would I create? And I'm like, oh wow. I yeah, I would change up a lot of things in my life because um I heard someone saying one day that you want things until you don't have them. But when you have them, then you are like, I really want this. And I always wanted to have money and designer bags and I don't know, expensive stuff. And I'm sitting in my house right now and I'm just laughing at myself. I'm like, I have all these bags, but I don't care. I don't I just ordered 5 of them from Zara the other day. I'm like, yeah, that's gonna be fine. And like it's so interesting how much I'm changing. I'm like, wow,
Yes.
wow.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm so grateful. Thank you for your vulnerability. And that was one of the things we were talking about before we started is like, because we both have successful businesses and, they're different. And yet, I was saying like people could look at both of us and, have whatever ideas or projections or whatever they have about, us and our businesses and our lives. And, it's like, I think part of it is just being a seeker, and always desiring more. And in like our culture, really is like global culture is really like about if you want more, that means that something is wrong. Like something has to be wrong in order for you to change it, And so many of us, I think, make things wrong in order to justify creating change. And, that doesn't have to be the case. And I know that's something I watch with myself all the time is like not making anything wrong about what is right now, acknowledging what I've created and having gratitude for it. And then also, because with everything that shows up, everything that we create, everything that we choose, we're always going to have more awareness if that's what we're asking for, and so I know for me right now, I've been home for, it'll be 6 weeks at home by the time I leave again, which for me, that's a very long stretch of being at home. It's probably been a decade since I've done that or more. I don't even know. It's like a month is usually the longest, and that's like rare. And I've chosen it. Like I was supposed to go to my house in Mexico, which was a dream of mine. I was like, oh, I want to have a house in Mexico. So we bought a house in Mexico a few years ago. And the last time I was there, I was like, I don't really have to have this house. Like I mean, it's great, but like, there's other things we could do, you know, like I was like, we could sell it, we could invest, like we could, there's so many other things that we could do, you know, and it's kind of like the house is wonderful. I'm grateful. And it doesn't define me. It's not my, you know, and so, but being here, like choosing to not go, I was supposed to leave a couple days ago and I was like, I don't want to leave. I don't want to go. I want to stay here because I'm creating something right now that's really different, and with my body and with my business. And in those, it almost feels like this kind of like incubation phase of like, all right, there's something so much greater that I desire. And I don't really know exactly what it is. I do have the energy of it. And I just am asking so many questions every day, you know, like what is available to choose that I have never considered, you know, that I could choose. Like, what is stepping up to me? I've been asking that a lot. Like, what is stepping up? What is that for me? Because sometimes stepping up is being like, I'm going to stay home and tend to my body and not be a big, powerful businesswoman. Like sometimes that is stepping up, you know, or being like I've been really aware of how much time I spend on my electronics. And I'm like, what if stepping up is not being on my phone, you know, and being in the woods more, or, you know, so yeah.
I love how universe works because we connect over time on different things, right? You and I. And I love our connection because we have each other's back for sure. Like I know I could call you anytime and you would just be on anything to help me. I know, but we don't have to.
Yeah.
And I love it because it's just, I really desire this kind of relationship in my life because I was experiencing a lot different ones. And I love this because when you asked me to come on, it was just funny. I told you, I'm like, hey, Heather, I'm so sorry. I have this at this day and only this hour. I'm so sorry. My life is just not being easy right now. And you were like, oh, okay, let's just look at something else. But then we find a day and I'm like, I just really have to be on this podcast with you. I just knew. And I love that we are having this conversation and we are really in a similar space, I guess.
Yeah.
This is what I feel with my life. I need to step up in a different way, but not really as a business person anymore.
Yeah.
I just as me, as a being.
Yeah.
What is actually true for me? What I desire. And I see, because I never had money. I was never actually really successful in anything before. And when I just have this infinite creativity and infinite energy of excitement and enthusiasm, like anything, I'm like, oh yeah, let's do it. Okay, cool, I'm in. And I have so much energy. I can bring so much energy in. And I realize with actually people around me or just, you know, not like friends, but many people who surround me nowadays, people get this energy and it's really rare and they just jump on it and kind of they're like surfing on my energy and I don't even realize it. And what I'm finding myself in the moment is my body's exhausted. I got the worst blood check in the past 15 years. Like nothing is working with my body. And I'm just wondering, like, what else could I do? Like, what if I can just create my life from a different place or space? And, you know, I really want to say that everything that I have done in the past 6 years is going to contribute. And I don't have to do that much anymore. Yeah. And I really have to, if I'm not going to stop, life will stop me. Because you know my story. I had this accident. They almost amputated my leg 10 years ago. And I was not like the same, but like it was really similar to what I am in right now. when life was just showing like, don't go there, don't do that, stop, 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 stop. And I was like, keep going, like actually forcing life to move on. And so many things. And I was like, no, 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 I'm keep going, pushing, 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 pushing. And I was just this force. And then one day I find myself in a hospital being said, your leg is going to be gone. I'm like, no, 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 no. It's just can't happen to me. And actually they wanted to amputate my leg for the first 4 days. Like every day they would come back to me saying, hey, surgery is tomorrow. And then they came back, they're like, okay, let's do tomorrow. And the day when I was just, accepting that I have to stop, it's not gonna be the same ever again, then my legs started to heal. And then they came back and they're like, hey, we don't think we have to do the surgery anymore. And then that was the day when I told my mom, hey, I'm not going to be a hairdresser anymore. Please call my school when I was a teacher. I'm not going to do my courses anymore. And I'm not going to be a hairdresser. And she was like, you crazy. Yeah, you don't know anything else beyond this. I'm like, yeah, but I can learn something else. I don't know. I just really have to change what is. And I find myself, it's not that, not the same right now, but I know if I'm not going to change what is, it's going to be tough. Because I wouldn't say that, I don't think that life is written for you. You choose and you create your life, but you have so many amazing capacities and things that no one else could create, just you do. And when you are trying to avoid it and then go in buying designer bags and let's have a life that everyone else has and let's go to here, there, take a selfie, do this, being on my phone, I do the same all the time. And I'm just realizing more and more, well, this is not the life that wants to live in me. I really have to go and discover what is actually the life that wants to live in me.
Wow.
And I'm the creator of it. I don't think that someone wants to tell me. It's just there are so many things that no one else is able to do or create or step into. And I'm being vulnerable right now, but I really need to change my life. Because if I want, life will step in and will help me to make my choice.
you know that very well. As
Yes.
do I. Yeah, the universe.
And can I ask you a question? Isn't it amazing that you actually have so much power, capacity, and gift that you are basically forced to go discover them?
Yeah.
Like, really?
Yeah. And we all do, not everybody chooses that path.
Yeah.
But I do want to say this isn't about, obviously, this is not about me and Nicolette. Like, this is, a conversation, like really inviting anybody listening into that deeper space of vulnerability with themselves. And it's true. The universe has a way of, it's like, I know some people call it like 2x4 therapy. Like, the universe kind of like hits you on the head with a 2x4. It's the size of a piece of wood in the United States, 2 inches by 4 inches. But it's like that. And we don't, but it doesn't have to be that way, and when we're way more like present with ourselves and our bodies and like listening and being vulnerable and being in that exploration, it's so things flow with so much more ease, and we don't have to be, come close to like amputation, because we've been listening to the whispers far ahead of that and following, and I have to say, for me, first of all, there's 2 things. One is this whole idea of the creation of living. This is something I've been playing with for many years, and I've done classes and, all kinds of things. And it was a podcast, and then it wasn't, and now it is again. And my sense is it's like the time has come for this conversation. Finally, I was about 10 years ahead of myself. But that it really is about this very courageous way of living and being and creating our businesses and our lives that is about honoring ourselves, honoring our bodies, and not like having the courage to not always prioritize other people, all the externals, other people, our goals that we think we need to have, the money that we think we need to make, all those things. It's like getting really present with this, like me, my body, my world, what do I want my everyday to look like and be like? And for me, it's not, I don't ever want any day to be the same as the one before, and that also can look a million different ways. But this invitation to anybody who is interested, to really start to develop a much deeper relationship with themselves and their bodies. And from this place of like, what if I made my life about honoring me and nurturing me and my body? And what if the business would get created with ease from there? What if my relationships would flourish from there? What if, everything is the opposite of what it appears to be, as we say in Access Consciousness. That when we put ourselves and our pleasure and our joy and our bodies and all of that, like as a priority, the other things get created from that, infused with that energy of joy and like the vibrancy of what's possible. And, we talk in Access Consciousness about the difference between life and living. And that's why this, the name of this podcast is, when you create a life, you're creating like a fixed reality. It's like, I got it. I check. I did it, done, and we both know we've both done that. And, maybe even are there now. And it's like, okay, that's called a life. There's a period at the end of that sentence, a living has 3 dots or a question mark, like it keeps going. A living is this ever expanding, unfolding universe of play and possibilities. And for me, it's one of the most courageous choices and set of choices really that we can make, because there's nothing in this world that is about that. And so to live as different as that requires us to be, you really have to be a pioneer of a new way of being. And it doesn't matter if anybody follows or goes with you. That's not what it's about, and sometimes people are really interested and they want to know more. Yeah.
I do think so. So my company gets so big in Hungary. We are really in the, everyone knows us basically. And many people know me, but not really from being a facilitator. They know me as this business person who created billions of forints from just recordings, because I started my membership 5 years ago, and basically every single day I create a recording. So we have one audio every day, and then we have a call, like a Zoom call every week. We have different tiers. We have just like a smaller package, which contains only audios, and then we have a middle package. It does 2 other calls, and then we have a way bigger package, which has like calls every week, basically. And when I studied, we had 30 people in the membership, because my experience was when I've been to any kind of class, I was really excited. I felt like I can change the whole world. And then 2 weeks after, I'm like, what is my mojo? Go, it went. And I was like, it would be so nice if people will never have that go away. And I know my life was created so dynamically because I was creating those audios every single day, and I reminded myself that what is consciousness, or what do I want to create, or we had so many topics we were talking about: how to be yourself, or just how to create your body, or relationship with your body or your loved ones, or whatever. And it helped me change every single day in the past, I don't know, 5 years. It's been like 2,000 recordings almost.
Yeah.
And it like grows so big. So we had times when we had like almost 3,000 people in the membership, but usually we have like 2,500. It depends. And it's different kind of people. Someone who never heard about anything like consciousness. Some people are like really old fashioned. They know everything, and they have done anything. And I see, as in Hungary, I would become this person who created this massive business from nothing. And how could I do that in Hungary? That's insane. And people started to talk about my income, because in Hungary, that's a public record. So you can just go, you put my company's name on Google, and it will tell you how much money I make, basically. And also like people would start talking about me, saying nice things and less nice things. And I was just like watching myself, but I was like, I will keep going. Like, you know what, guys, you don't like me creating, you want me to stop, I will just keep going and keep creating and create more and more and more. And I was doing that, but at the same time, nowadays I'm like, something is interesting. I don't feel my life is easy. It used to be. I had so much ease. What changed? And when I look back, when the company started to become this monster, when we had sometimes over 20 people working for us, and we would do podcasts showing who works with the team, who is the new expert who joined the team. And I didn't know back then, something was just interesting. And then I realized it's not my dream. I realized, because I had months where I was just doing my recordings, but I was not able to do a class because the team was so busy with everything else that we couldn't organize a class for me. And I wanted to become a 3D body facilitator, which is an access consciousness specialty. And I started to do my little body process classes. And I had the first one, and I will cry. I remember how happy I was. And I remember we were sitting at lunch, and my colleague, she was organizing the class for me, and she's like, Nicolett, what's going on with you? I'm like, I'm so happy. I was born for this. Why I am sitting on a fucking meeting 5 times a week, trying to solve all these problems, thinking about paying all these taxes. It's okay. I know it's part of the business, but I don't do what I love to do.
Yeah.
I was born for this. I know I love this so much. I changed my whole life.
Yeah.
I would do this if no one would pay me. If my company would be gone tomorrow, I would go to Zara, work there every night, go home and do the same thing, do my audios. I would do the same. I would never stop doing it. If no one would pay me, I would do the same thing. I just love it so much. And I think that was the day when I realized something is not going the way I want it to. I am not this business person. I don't want to be. I don't want to go with the most famous Hungarian companies. I don't want to be Forbes 50. I don't care, because that's great if that's your dream, that you want to build a company, but that's not me. That's not who I am. And I think it's okay. And I have to share with you this bit, which I'm just realizing. I would never have a business. I just needed one because I needed to give invoice to people who came to my classes. And I realized I needed to start my business because you have to be legal here. So what else? And I created my company because I just wanted to do my classes. And at the beginning, I was doing my classes, and as my company was growing, everything was just slower and slower, and the systems, and no one, it's just one person who does this system and the other person does that system. And it's like, they like communicating, it was so slow. And before that, I had the easiest Wix website. I thought, oh, it's just Monday. I would love to have a class on Saturday. I went to Canva, created my graphic, write some copy, and then I put my class out there, and I'm like, okay, here's the class.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, everything has changed, and this is not what I actually enjoy.
Yeah.
And I know it's really scary because I'm willing to lose it all. I am at the point right now where I'm like, I can lose this. I don't care anymore. I know if I have joy of what I'm doing, that's all what I need.
Yeah.
That's all what I need. And I just want to enjoy my life, because it's been years that I'm not really enjoying. I'm just going to one thing to another, and the next and the next. I don't know if you had that with your business, when you don't have just like 2 hours or one day or two, just enjoy that you just had a foundation class or whatever you have done.
Yeah.
Because you have the next thing to go to. And my life is like that for most of the time. Is I'm here with you. After this, I would love to wander around for like the next day, but then I have a book club tonight, so I have to go there, and then tomorrow I have another class, I go there, and then I have a meeting and this and that, and I'm like, oh my God, I really need to change this and change my point of view that not doing more is what creates more, for me at least.
Yes, that. Yeah. It's so funny that you said that, because we're creating a new website right now. And the banner on the top of the homepage says, do less, create more.
Oh my God. Yes. When I will be like, I need to change my life, I would just go to your website. I'm like, okay, click on it. Okay.
It's going to be pretty epic. But that was really, because the tools that we both facilitate, the access consciousness tools, and, we both do other things as well. But there's such a conversation within access consciousness and those tools about elegance and ease, and elegance being like minimum effort, maximum yield, maximum result, maximum creation. And it's one of the like principles of the creation of living is elegance and relaxation and hedonism and intensity, which is interesting to put all of those together. And I also got to that point. It's been a while since my life was like that, because I really chose that I wasn't going to do that. But especially when my kids were younger, I have two boys that are now adults. Basically, they're 17 and 19. And but I was a single mom, and they were when I was really starting and building my business, they were quite young. They were pretty needy. There was a lot of stuff going on, and I would be, I did like every single day, from 7 a.m. until 2 a.m. Basically, I had really long days during that time because I had them and I had all these other things. And I would be on my computer at night, they would go to bed and then I would work, and I would clean the house and then I would work, and I'd work until 2:00 in the morning, and I was like, I didn't start this business so that I could be on the computer all the time. Like that was never like a target of mine. I want to spend hours and hours on the computer, and I just knew that there could be something different. And I just, use the amazing, very different tools of access consciousness and the joy business tools to create something different. And I still am, and I think there's this real kind of like, what I'm always exploring is like the creation of business and the creation of wealth, like in a really powerful, elegant way, easeful way that is fed by our joy and relaxation, and I've had moments where I like work. Well, it's been interesting because I notice when I work a lot now, like my money flows tend to go down when I'm like working too much. It's really interesting. And when I work less, then
Money comes.
yeah, like I get into a different space, and it really is, there's a lot of magic to it, and by no means do I have it figured out, because it's been an interesting time economically for so many people. The US is going through a lot. I think it's pretty global, but I know in the US there's a lot of, just a lot of people facing a lot of economic challenges. So that's impacted my business, and it's been really nice to also stay committed to my joy and like the creation of my living, no matter what. And yeah, there's no place to get to. There's no conclusion to it. It's like, but to me, I just know that this is something that I have to explore and will continue to explore and be on the creative edge of for my own life, for myself. Because it doesn't make sense to me. It never did, to spend our lives working our asses off at something that we don't really want to be doing so that someday we can be happy or wealthy. It's like, why would I, like every time I look outside, I have these beautiful trees, I'm like, I could just stare at the trees and be so happy, like, and yeah, there's bills to pay, and there's, I wouldn't want to do that all the time. I wouldn't want to do anything all the time, but it's like, yeah, I feel like we're, pioneers in this opening this conversation of a very different way of functioning. And each one of us, anybody who's curious about this or inspired by this, it's like each one of us just knows something, and it's like when you were like, not going to be a hairdresser anymore. I'm done with that, or I'm moving from San Francisco back to Hungary, or what you need to do with your business now. It's like we have those moments of like, okay, something really big needs to change. And it's always based on this awareness that we have that nobody invites us to pay attention to, and to me, that's a lot of what I love about the conversations that we have, is that it is all about paying attention to that thing that that the world has told you is impossible, that way of living, the life that you can have, not as a fantasy, but as just this knowing that our bodies also contribute so much to, of like, this can be so different. It's just that when we're creating new possibilities, they haven't existed before, so we don't have anything to refer to other than the greatest asset that we have, which is our knowing, and learning to function from that and act upon that and move with that and create from that and have our businesses come from that. It's like, it's a bold choice. It's a courageous choice. It's a choice that a lot of people won't make. And that's okay, and I think acknowledging ourselves for just being different. And I'm not talking about me and Nicolett. I'm talking about anybody who's still here listening. It's like, acknowledge that you're different and you have a unique knowing, and listening to that and following that is truly your greatest asset. And sometimes it's really helpful to have the contribution of other people to like strengthen that.
I think so, because I created so much according to how small this country is. Like it's just 9.5 million people right now. So it's like a bigger city in the US.
Yeah.
And things are growing. So basically we have almost as much facilitators than the United States. It's like it's crazy, and it's really wonderful to see. At the same time, I do have like so interesting for me. I knew I can create whatever I desire. I had the knowledge. I didn't trust myself on it, but I always knew since I was a child. It's like, yeah, being Hungarian is not really a handicap for me. I don't think it's true.
Yeah.
I kind of bought into that is a handicap, so I wanted to move. So when I was 20, I moved to Rome. I lived there for 3 years. Then I moved back, and then I was living here and there ever since. But I always ended up being here because I don't know. I guess it's so similar. Like I mean, it's a thing that I actually know. It's easy for me to live in Hungary. And creating all of this, it was so cool. And then now seeing myself who I am, it's another thing. And I'm so grateful for this conversation because I kind of got to a point before we got on this call, not like today, but I would say in the past couple of days, is that I'm really willing to lose this all. I'm not attached to it. I know I created it. I can create from scratch. I'm not scared because I have all those energies and knowledge, and I trust myself because this being created just by following my knowing. Like I didn't know what I was doing, honestly. Like I didn't even know what I was. I think I was just choosing one thing at the time and then the next one, and I figured it out, and I learned so much. I'm like a different person than I used to be like 5-6 years ago. I listen to any of my audios, I'm like, oh yeah. I am like so careful, I'm so nice, I am the nice girl from the neighborhood. And now I'm like, I'm more like, I'm here, hello. And it's changing ever since, but I see myself, I'm like, wow, I already created this with all this struggle. I don't think I need to struggle anymore.
Yeah.
And I really do think that I need to change my point of view on creation. Like because we Hungarians, we need to die in order to create. If you don't really die into your creation, then it's too easy. So you're shady, or like something is shady with you. So, and I'm like, I really just need to change my point of view on this. I don't really die from creation. I can just actually go and enjoy my life. And my favorite question, which I asked recently, if money wouldn't be an issue, what would I choose?
Yeah. Yeah.
If money wouldn't be an issue, what would I choose? And the other thing, I was listening to a podcast. I think it was, who it was, someone famous, whatever. And he said, some people wake up on the morning, they just want to eat granola because that's what makes them happy. Some people wakes up and they just want to do yoga because this is what makes them happy. Some people want to go into a room, write an entire book on a weekend because this is what makes them happy. Some people just wants to make millions of dollars because this is what makes them happy. And I was like, that's so interesting because I know this. Because what do we want? If you just like anything you think you want would make you happy, that's what we think. But in the meantime, like what I am finding now, I just want to be happy, whatever it is. It maybe doesn't look. I'm not gonna fulfill people's image about myself anymore. This business persona, and oh, she's so successful. Maybe I will have classes with 5 people, and that's what's gonna make me happy.
Yeah.
And I just really have to be willing to just follow that. And maybe this is what's going to happen, who knows, but just go with what's true for us. And it's just really changing for me. Something is like,
That's amazing. I know we need to wrap it up, but we could just keep talking forever. But I do want to just circle back to that thing that you said about willing to lose everything. Because that, like, when you're willing to lose everybody and everything, that's one of the tools that I use probably on a daily basis is just kind of checking in with that. Like, am I willing to lose everything that I have and everybody in my life? And not because I'm going to go through my life with a machete and destroy things, you know, but anywhere that you're not willing to lose somebody or something, it totally inhibits what you can choose. You know, it's like we only make choices based on kind of what we know is going to keep everything intact, you know.
Mm.
So there's this whole universe of choice that is beyond that we're not willing to make, because it threatens those things that we aren't willing to lose. So to me, the willingness to lose everybody and everything and gain everybody and everything, because both, you know, we could talk a lot about both of those. It's one of the most kind of like direct creation tools for me to get me to a different space of being willing to choose something very different. And when I know that when I choose something really different, all kinds of new things show up, and we never know what it's going to be, but you know, we have to get to that point. And we don't have to lose everything, you know, like as I hear you talk about this, I'm like, your business doesn't have to, I mean, you're willing to have it go away. That's great. And it may not. We'll see what you choose, what gets created. And it's like, you did say earlier, you know, you're going to be able to receive from everything that you've created so far. Like, it's all creating this future. And you just, you know, you may need to change how it looks, or how it is, but we don't have to go through, you know, and destroy, unless something really needs to be destroyed. And then it's a creative destruction. It's a generative destruction that creates something greater.
I think we've been to London to a BU class, if you remember, like 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And I was at lunch with someone, and she gave me a tool. I'm not sure I'm being correct on this. I tried. My Hungarian and English is like, I'm still translating this. So she said, what am I not choosing because of the person? And you think about someone. What am I not choosing because she is or he is here? And what I would choose if she or he wouldn't be here.
Wow.
And I was like, oh my God. And you can go with your coworkers, you can go with your kids, or, you know, your husband or loved ones or whatever, your mom. And I realized by that, like, how much, because before my accident, there was something, I had no tools back then, but I had something is off. But I was offered a really good job in Bologna, Italy. I would become one of the professional educator for Revlon, which is a big brand. And then I was teaching in the best hair schools, Tony and Guy. And then I had my own salon. Like, everything was like kind of blossoming. But I don't know, I was just something. I was like, and I just kept going. And after my accident, I realized that I actually knew before my accident that I want to change my life, just because. But I was not able to, because every time I was trying to talk to some of my friends or family or anyone, I just tried, hey, I don't think I like to be a hairdresser anymore. I don't really like to talk to my clients. I'm like, I don't like to stand behind the chair all day long. My body doesn't like it. My body is exhausted from standing all day. And everyone is like, yeah, but look at what you have created. You have your own salon. You're teaching at this school. This is amazing. And you are going to move to Bologna? What do you want? Are you kidding? And I'm like, oh, yeah, right. Thank you. And then I just kept going. And now that I have this tool, I'm like, oh, what am I not choosing because of XYZ? And I'm like, oh my God. Yeah. And now I see also, I'm like, if I would think about the people in my life, just them, which I used to do all the time, like putting everyone first and then me somewhere in the back. if I would think about all of these people around me, I would never choose for myself. And it doesn't mean that I'm excluding them from my choice, because I actually do know if I will choose for myself and I'm including them also, they will get something more amazing.
Oh, way more. That's the thing,
Right?
No, but like goes so against everything that we're taught. But
Yeah.
we are the greatest contribution to people when we are choosing for us.
Yeah.
Always. Always. And that's a whole podcast too. Like,
Cool.
yeah. Wow. We'll just have to do it again.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful. Thank you, Heather.
Oh, thank you. What a beautiful conversation. I'm so grateful for your vulnerability and
Thank you.
everything that you're choosing and like your courage. Really, it's really inspiring and really just am aware what a gift this is to people that will be listening and yeah, thank you all listening for being here with us. This is a longer one and also like just so many gems and beautiful spaces. So I hope it was a great contribution to you all. So
Thank you.
Thank you, Nicolett, and take care. Bye for now. See you all next time. Thank you for joining me for the Creation of Living podcast. If this conversation was inspiring to you, share the love. To work privately with me or for info on my upcoming classes and retreats, go to heathernichols.com. Have a beautiful day, and remember that the world thrives when you do.